Are you tired of spending your time and money chasing strategy after strategy only to discover what worked 10, 5, or even 2 years ago is not working now? Things shift fast in the online space, and if you're not keeping up, you're getting left behind. It's time for something different. Welcome to the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast, where every single episode will be jam-packed with proven, profitable strategies, behind-the-scenes secrets, and what's working now resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. And now, your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist, and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast. I'm looking forward to sharing another amazing industry expert with you today, and you are going to love her. And let me tell you a little bit about her before we jump in. So Dr. Rhoberta Shaler provides urgent and ongoing care for relationships in crisis. Her mission is to provide the insights, information, and inspiration for clients and audiences to know why and how to transform relationships with themselves and with other humans to be honest, respectful, and safe in all ways. Dr. Shaler empowers the partners, exes, adult children, and co-workers of the relentlessly difficult, toxic people she calls hijackals to recognize emotional abuse, realize the effects, heal, and transform. She helps them see clearly, stop the crazy making, and save their sanity. Widely published and the author of 16 books, including Escaping the Hijackal Trap and Stop That Crazy Making, she hosts 2 popular podcasts, Transforming Relationships with Emotional Savvy and Save Your Sanity, Help for Toxic Relationships. Her YouTube channel for relationship help has reached over 270,000 views. So, Dr. Shaler, thank you so much for being here today on the show. I am really looking forward to diving in and really talking about this topic. I think it's very important, and I think we have a lot of relationships out there that are in crisis.
We certainly do, and it's a great pleasure to be talking with you, Patty. There's so much to talk about, of course.
Of course. So to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you really came into doing this? And I know how much you love it because we've had many conversations, but really honestly, how did you come to really coin this hijackal? And could you describe it for us? And really, what's the story and your aha moment where you realized that this was really what you were meant to do?
Sure. Well, I have always had an interest in conflict, and resolving it. And that's because I was an only child born to 2 hijackals. So that was the basis of it. As you walk through it and you're confused about the world and you're looking at these 2 giants that you have to pay attention to in your home, and they're very confusing, they're very strange, and you realize they're not quite the way they ought to be. I just rose up being very interested in all things medical and psychological. So I was on my way to medical school, found I was pregnant, shifted and got a doctorate in psychology. And the reason I created the term and trademarked the term hijackals, Patty, it's because I felt too many people were going to the internet and they were saying my partner, my mother, and my boss behaves this way. And they forgot that the internet is an index. It is not a psychological professional. So it was spitting back psychological diagnoses, and then people were going, oh, yes, that's what's wrong with that person. And I wanted us to have a term that we could talk about without need for psychological diagnosis, that would talk about and describe the patterns, traits, and cycles of these relentlessly difficult, toxic people. So my definition of a hijackal is a person who hijacks a relationship for his or her own purposes and then relentlessly scavenges that relationship for power, status, and control. So I think everybody knows one. And maybe that term will automatically help you see, yes, that's so-and-so.
Exactly. So when we come across somebody that we believe is a hijackal, and I'm sure they make it pretty obvious, what are some of the easy characteristics that we can identify right away?
Well, first of all, there's a part of you that cringes at the thought of talking to them, being with them, or being accountable to them. So you're going to know in your body, like, oh, do I have to? Or this isn't going to go well. And there's some anxiety attached to it. But in the interaction, what you're going to find is a hijackal always has to win, and they find a way to win. And whether that win is large or small, it doesn't matter. They will find one that will make them feel superior to the situation. So the need to win, to be right, to be the one who knows, to change the truth in order to make themselves right, to take no accountability or responsibility for what they've done and make everything your fault. Those are very common. Another big piece that you would probably recognize is that they have what we call all or nothing or black or white thinking. Either you are the best thing that ever happened to them, or you are the scum of the earth, and there is nowhere in between. There are no gray zones with a hijackal. It's all or nothing, good or bad, but nothing in between. Also, another thing is that they are definitely empathy deficient. So when you are looking to be understood or have someone care about you or even be interested in how you feel, that hijackal, not giving you that. Absolutely not. So there are a few things that can help us continue this conversation to understand what a hijackal behaves like.
Oh, I love that. I have to tell you, I think my starter husband was a hijackal. So what are some of the ways that you empower, the partners and exes and adult children? Because, I think that for me, I can see that there are going to be hijackals in your life and in your business. It's not just going to be one or the other. I'm sure that you will find them really in both. And I know a lot of times in my young life, when I came across someone that I now realize was a hijackal, it's easy sometimes to take it on yourself and think it must be something you're doing, right? And before you really realize that it has absolutely nothing to do with you, which took me a little while to learn, but I did finally learn, right? To kind of keep showing up until you do. But really, honestly, I love that you say that you empower them, because really, honestly, that's what it's all about, right?
Yes, and the first way that we empower ourselves is getting some knowledge. That's why I write about it so much. That's why I do the podcast. That's why I do the YouTube channel. I can't be with everybody in the world. So I want people to be able to find a reliable expert place where they can read about it or listen to it or watch it and say, oh, I'm not alone. These people really do exist, and I think I'm with one, and I'm trying to deal with this. So let me learn as much as I can. So the first way of being empowered is to gain some knowledge. And then the next step is to say, all right, what has been the implications of this on my life, to really realize the impact and effect that's had on you. So for an example, Patty, if you were raised by a hijackal mother, for instance, you are going to have difficulties in the way that you perceive yourself, because I actually wrote a big article on this. It's called 12 Damaging Lies Your Narcissistic Mother Told You About Yourself. Things that are so part of your brain growth. We all have to recognize that our brains grow until we're 30, and it goes in stages. So when you've been around a hijackal parent, in the first 6-7 years of your life, so much has gone into you, and you don't know that. You were not recognizing that. It was not in your awareness. It just went through your pores and into you, and how you perceive the world, how you perceive your place in it, how you perceive what's okay, what's not okay, what's scary, what's not scary. So we have to look at what is the impact once we realize that we have been with a person of that nature. And the same thing applies if you've been in a relationship with one. You have to realize that you've probably warped some because they've told you that everything is your fault and that everything is different than you think it is. They gaslight you. So to be empowered, you have to recognize the patterns, traits, and cycles. You have to realize the implications and impacts. And then you have to say, whoa, what are my values? What's my vision for my life? What are my beliefs? What are my best next steps? So you have to take the focus back and rebuild yourself so that you can take the steps you need.
I love that. So now let's kind of think about business. Imagine that you're, a speaker, an entrepreneur, a business owner, you're at a networking event, maybe you're at a conference, and you're in a room full of 50 people or more, right? Now you're in this, in a community per se. What are some of the things that you can do that when you come across someone, right, that you can kind of disengage from that without having anything kind of come back, right? You don't have to worry about getting entangled in that. What are some of the ways that you can just kind of say, okay, I can identify that's what that is. It's not where I want to be. And I'm just going to remove myself from that situation. I mean, we all know that we're in networking spaces. You're surrounded by a lot of people, and sometimes it can be really difficult.
Yes, it certainly can be. And it's a great question because what we want to be able to do is understand and get the hijackals on our radar, and then we want to bring out our hijackal repellent, right? Don't want to sit there and be hijackal bait. So that's an important thing to do. So if somebody comes up to you, A, they're not going to make good eye contact with you, or B, they're overly solicitous with their eye contact, particularly if there's someone who seems to be coming on to you not just in a networking way. They seem to be overly interested in you. So you want to be aware of whether they invade your personal space, whether they are only talking about themselves, whether they're dismissive of you and only talk about themselves, if they're interested in you and they have an equal balance in the conversation, or maybe you're just going to get an energetic hit where you go, whoa, no, back up. So it's very important to be able to read that kind of thing coming towards you. And if you have hijackals in your background and you haven't healed that, they will find you. You will be a hijackal magnet. They will search you out and seek you out and endeavor to overpower you or engage you because they think, there's one I can manipulate. So very important to trust your body, trust your gut, and also keep your eyes open. If they get too close, if they're ask questions that you'd rather not answer, if they are talking about themselves and looking over their shoulder for their next person to talk to, take that in. Notice what's going on.
Really good advice. So tell me a little bit about your business. What do you do best in your business, right? What are, are these skills that you've had, were they prior? Did you have them prior doing something else before? Or is it something that you learned along the way because you came across hijackals all the time? I mean, 16 books. I mean, that's a lot of books and a lot of information. I love that. I went and looked at your author page on Amazon and I was like, wow, you've written a lot of books. So how did all that happen?
Well, I've always been interested in the self-growth, self-help realm because I was raised in total dysfunction. So I knew there had to be a better way. So I have always been in that space. My earliest books were about generally how to have a better life, how to have a better outlook, how to be more positive. But always, because I've been in this therapeutic realm for a long, long time, helping people with conflict. I used to be a road warrior. I was on the road speaking at conferences all the time, helping people understand conflict. One of the books that I've written is called Wrestling Rhinos, Conquering Conflict in the Wilds of Work. So I've always been helping people with the difficult. And as I honed in, of course, as a young person, I would go to people in my small town and I'd say, you know, my parents behaved this way. And they would say, and this is common, Patty, people would say, oh no, how can you say that about your mother? She is wonderful. Now, here's a little thing to remember. Hijackals paint a public picture of perfection, and then at home they create a private place of pain. So when you go out to talk about what's going on for you, other people don't see that person. And then they make you further wrong and they'll shame you. And after I had finished my PhD and all, I was looking at what are the implications in my life of having these very strange family members. My grandmother was probably the most unhappy, judgmental, mean person I had ever encountered. And the apples didn't fall far from the trees. And so it's really important to me to help people shortcut that journey, to be able to say, the gifts that were given may not be the ones that serve me. Maybe I need to set them aside and have a look. Were they toxic? Are they useful? Is there anything from this I'd like to keep? I mean, that's a lot of the empowerment work that I do. All right, you have this behavior, you have this value, you have this belief. Is it serving you? Is that what you really want? And for many people, they haven't ever had a good look at that before. So that's how the work grew, was that when I went to look for help, there was none. And I realized that I was going to have to be the one who created it, or at least one of the many who have created it. And then when I came off the road, no longer doing, if it's Thursday, it must be Detroit life, I decided to go back into full-time private practice. So I see my clients only by video conferencing, so I have clients all over the world, and this way I can have the greatest impact. And because I can't see everybody, that's why I have the podcast, the books, and the YouTube channel.
Well, that's nice and well-rounded. And we all know that people communicate differently, right? And so I think that having all of those different ones really works very, very well.
It does. Many times, I'm at the stage now in my work, happily enough, that I'll get little notes from people and they'll say, I've been following your podcast for years. It allowed me to see what was happening. I moved my children out of a toxic environment. I knew what steps to take. Thank you. I've never met this person. I've never heard their name, but they've been impacted. And that's what gets me up in the morning and floats my boat and flips my skirt.
I love that. So you've written 16 books, and I love that. But do you have any books that you could recommend for the audience? Now, we're going to make sure that yours are in our show notes so everybody can know that there will be a link to be able to check out all of her books. But I always like to talk to business people, and I always like to think, what's on your nightstand, right? What book are you reading and can recommend? Because I have to tell you, I read about 1 to 2 books a week for my own business development and personal development. And then when I travel, I allow myself to just read fiction on the plane and stuff. And that's kind of like my secret pleasure. But the rest of the time, I pretty much read personal development or business development books. And so I always love it when people recommend books, especially if it's ones that I haven't, but it kind of validates it if people read ones that I have read too. So do you have a few that you just really love whenever anybody asks you that question that you just can say, oh, these are some?
Sure, I do. One is very scholarly. It's on my bedside table all the time. It's called Coercive Control. I have a new show starting, a daily video show. It's called Hijackal Hacks, Say No to Coercive Control. And the man who created that, his name is Evan Stark. He's a professor at Princeton. So that book is there, very scholarly. Another book I love is by one of my guests on Emotional Savvy, Dr. Ramani Durvasula. She wrote Should I Stay or Should I Go? Very good book. Another is Invisible Chains, and that's written by Lisa Fontes. And I am reading a book that I have read many times, but I can never get enough of it, and it's called Eastern Body, Western Mind.
Ooh, I like that. That sounds really good. They all sounded good, but that one really kind of calls to me.
Oh, it's a great book. It's a great big book, and I've read it many times, and every time I feel, good. Learn something more.
Well,
And
we're
then
always in a different place, right? Ourselves. So when we read every time, right, it's always, it always kind of affects us a little bit differently because we're in a different place.
Well, that's true. And the other book that I have always open is a spiritual book. It's called The Heart of Mysticism by my favorite teacher, Joel Goldsmith. So I read that every day.
Perfect. Now, those are some great choices. So thank you so much for that. So what would your advice be to a brand new entrepreneur or business owner that's just starting out? So they're brand new and now they're going to start going out marketing their business, right? This is the Marketing Media Money Show. So they're going to go out and start marketing their business. They're going to go out and start networking, and they're going to go out and start trying to attract their perfect right fit client. So what would your advice be to them? So this way they don't just get knocked off right away and, totally overwhelmed and stuff. What would your advice be to them?
I think the most important thing is to go from the inside out, Patty. So many times people are, they're seeking to make money. That's what they're doing. And of course, we all have to live. We all have to eat. And I understand that. But if you have the consciousness to develop your business, find out first who you are, what you value, what your vision is, what your gifts are, and then choose a lane. Don't just go and throw all the paint at the wall and see what sticks. Choose very thoughtfully. Here's where my passion lies. Here's where my gifts align with that. Let me do that. And for many people, that's scary, because I know as a young entrepreneur, I resisted that. I wanted to say, but I can help all these different people in all these different situations, and I do a lot of work with couples as well. But, what am I going to market? Well, eventually, I woke up and smelled the herbal tea and realized that the narrowest niche possible is the richest niche for me. So I would certainly advise people to have a good look within, find out what suits them, not what suits everybody else. When you get new information as to what you need and what you want, calibrate that with, does that feel right to me? Does that feel good? When I first started on the internet, it was 1996, and I went around to all kinds of seminars, and so many times I felt like I needed to rush home and take a shower. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. That doesn't feel right to me. Notice that, right? Learn that. You are going to live with you throughout the course of this business. Make sure things work for and with and within you. That's important.
I love that. That's really good. So right now, what do you love the most about your business today?
I love podcasting. I was just an icon of influence at the New Media Summit a couple of months ago. And I've been to it 3 times. And just the world of podcasting, the world of being able to reach people wherever they are, to provide them information when they're jogging, they're in their car, they're looking for information, they're looking for help. I find podcasting very exciting. I have 2 shows. The 3rd one is going to be done on video, but it'll also be a podcast. And that's what I think is most exciting, is to be able to share what you have learned in a way that is totally and freely accessible to all.
Yes, I love podcasting myself. It is one of my favorite things. I really love the magazine I publish as well, but those 2 things make me very, very happy. And it's really great when you get to do business doing something you love, but something serves your community as well. So I think that is really, what I think about when I'm doing all the things that I do.
Sure, and I think a podcast, much as many people might not realize this, is very magnetizing, because when you are speaking about what you're passionate about and you advertise it appropriately, you market it well, you're going to get a funnel of people who want what your expertise is. And it really can simplify your marketing. Yes, it's one piece of it, but it can simplify it. After these years of being in this lane and in this very narrow niche, I just have to do my podcasts and my videos and see clients. I don't have to do a lot of marketing anymore, because what you're giving out is your marketing.
Absolutely. So what's next for you? Is there a project that you're working on? And it sounds like you're getting ready to do another podcast.
Yes. Yes, this is a new project. It's a combination of two things. I'm very involved with this idea of ending coercive control. I want to get it into the legal system here. We've recently, in this administration, had the definition of domestic violence reduced to only being punishable or chargeable when there are crimes of violence, which means physical harm. Prior to April, we had a very good policy that included economic abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and we were really on an enlightened path, but we've gone backwards there. So I really want to get that into the public. So my answer to that is the new show, Hijackal Hacks, saying no to coercive control. And it's ways to understand what's happening to you in the most refined and tiny ways that you may not have thought of, not the broad strokes, but the tiny individual hair-like strokes, so that you understand and then can say, oh, no, this is not okay with me, and what to do. Not only helping people recognize it's happening and realize the impact, but what are your next best steps, and helping people see that. So yes, I'm very, very excited about Hijackal Hacks.
I love it. I love the name. Even the name sounds fabulous.
Well, it's fun, it's memorable, and it's something that, the whole digital age understands. Everybody knows what a hack is. It's going to be a shortcut to making something work. And so we need that, because when we recognize we have a hijackal in our life, or we were raised by one, and the impact and the reach that that person has had on our heart and mind and soul, we want some shortcuts, and we want them quickly. And that's what I want to provide.
I love that. So how can people connect with you?
Well, you can come along to my website, transformingrelationship.com. If you go around in the navigation there, you'll find my podcasts, you'll find my blog, you'll find my store. I have an online program called Seeing the Cycle, so if you're wondering. And you can also go to hijackals.com and get my free ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal. If you're wondering now, is that person really one? Well, that'll help you. So that, and my YouTube channel, which is called FOR Relationship Help, HELP. All of those things are ways people can interact with me. They can get on my email list. They can subscribe to the YouTube channel and know what's up all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for making it so easy. And you come to the show with a gift as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, many times we need one-stop shopping to say, okay, I've got all these little things that happen with this person, but I can kind of excuse them or rationalize them or justify them. And I wanted to give everybody the free ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal, so you know that that's a pattern. You may be only experiencing this little moment and that little tidbit over there, but you need to see the patterns. So that's why the ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal, at hijackals.com. And you spell that hijack, ALS.com.
Oh, perfect. So now we come to the portion of the show that I like to call #social karaoke. So my own little version of social karaoke. And it's called OpenMic. And this is where I hand off the mic to you so that you can share with my audience anything that maybe we didn't discuss, or maybe you want to elaborate on something. What else you got? Do you have anything that you'd like to share? I'd really love to be able to serve and support you like you've been so generous and gracious to serve my audience.
Thank you. And yes, I do. I have one big thing that I think is so important, and we haven't talked about it, Patty, and that is that we are little machines for rationalizing, justifying, and making excuses for other people's behavior and our own. And so I want to really highlight the fact that I want you to think in terms of what I call my ABB, and that is always believe behavior. No matter what a person says, believe their behavior. Then
the first time.
if it aligns with what they say, yay! But if it doesn't, believe the behavior, because your behavior is your belief. It is where you show who you really are. So you can say all kinds of lovely things and make all kinds of wonderful promises, but the behavior will show who you are, what you're up to, and what you really value. So always believe behavior.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here on the podcast today. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure to write for your magazine, great magazine. And I know that people will be greatly helped by everything that you offer to them.
Oh, thank you so much. So for our audience out there, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. And remember that sharing is caring. And I'd like to invite you to join our Facebook group, Marketing, Media, and Money Magazine podcast and live event. We would love to have you be part of the community and to allow you to be able to engage, connect, and have conversation with all of our amazing guests and the contributors to the magazine as well. So thank you so much. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at www.marketingmediamoney.com. I promise your business will thank you.